In this video, I'll show you how to solve a Salesforce coding question on WeCP. WeCP offers a VS Code IDE for candidates to work on a SFDC project. Let's get started. In order to write an Apex trigger, you will need two things. In our case, we're using an Apex class handler, this, and we're using the Apex trigger to follow best practices. Great. So I'll start by running the test for this Apex class so we can see the coverage. Then I'm going to show you how to go ahead achieving the same thing. Now, I'll run my test. And then let's look at the result. 100% pass rate. Awesome. Great. So how do you achieve this? Now, in order to start, you will need your Apex class, which serves as a template. Within your Apex class, you will need a method, serves as an engine to drive your logic. In our case, we are going to use a static method and void, which means we are returning nothing. And then we were going to pass the arguments. New account is a map that represents all the newly updated records, while old account represents the prior values of those old records, of the records getting updated. Next, we have to loop over the records getting updated by using a function called values. After looping, we need to get the old version of this record. Then we need to check if the name has changed. If the name has changed, we want to store the ID of all of these records inside of a set. Then we make sure this set isn't empty before carrying out our next action. Our next action is to query for the opportunities related to this specific account. Make sure you use good practice by mentioning this keyword security enforce for your SQL queries. Next, we want to perform a map, and then we create another list and add all the records we're about to update inside of that list. Next, we want to make sure that our list isn't empty one more time for the records about to be updated, and then we perform our DML. Now let me show you how to create the trigger. Right here is an Apex trigger. It helps to run the events and drive my Apex class handler. So you need to define the event that you want your Apex trigger to run on. In our case, I'm using the after update. And due to best practices, it's good to create one trigger per object and keep everything within that single trigger. In our case, a trigger has been created for accounts. So all you need to do is define the events like this, trigger.isAfter and trigger.isUpdate. Next, you will need to put your Apex class, which is our class right here. And then you will use the dot notation and get the method. Since it's a static method, we can use the dot notation. Then you will need to pass your trigger.newMap and trigger.oldMap, which represents the newly records that are getting updated and their old versions. Now, why do we use trigger.newMap and trigger.oldMap? because in our case, we are using a map and not a list. If you use a list as arguments, then you should use trigger.new and trigger.old. Thank you.